What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Pachinko Season 2, out in full now on Apple TV+. This, of course, is the second season of the adaptation of the Min Jin Lee 2017 novel from creator Soo Hugh. Pachinko Season 1 debuted back in early 2022, so it's been a long wait, but Pachinko Season 2 is finally here in full, and I'm getting to this late. Admittedly, I was away when the series wrapped up. However, I did not want to let this season pass me by because Pachinko is still one of the best shows on TV, and even after its second season, is still really underrated. I wish this show was bigger. I wish this show got more awards attention. This multi-generational story taking place in the 1940s and then the post-war period in Japan, and also taking place in the late 80s on the eve of Japan's financial crash. The show is so rich with drama. The character work on this series, thanks to stellar writing consistently, is excellent, and it's just really compelling family drama. Pachinko Season 2 very much continues where the series left off. That being said, I do think the 1940s, 1950s storyline, the past, so to speak, is more integral and feels stronger than the 80s storyline, which feels a bit thinner, at least a bit simpler. That being said, I really love the whole ensemble, the whole piece of the show, and I would love for the series to come back for a third season. The show has not yet been renewed, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I have a lot of notes throughout the series, but I mean, it was a long season. There's a lot that goes on. I'll just kind of jump around here. But I think what was really cool about where the show progressed, and I haven't read the book, so I didn't really know what to expect in this regard, but the show taking us out of Osaka, basically Hansu being able to save the family and take them to the countryside onto the farm right before Osaka begins being bombed in the later, part of the war. That was cool because it got us to a whole new setting and whatnot and changed some dynamics. But then I was also kind of surprised to see that we kind of ended the war faster than I expected, about halfway through the season. And as a result, we do this 5 year time skip into like 1950, 1951 time in the post war rebuild recovery period back in Osaka. And of course, before we know it, the Korean War kicks off. And because this is a show about Koreans in Japan, that is very important. So I was pretty impressed with like the plotting there. And kind of alluding to what I said before, in the late 80s plotting, we don't progress nearly as much time. We actually don't even get to the financial crash. I was kind of expecting that to happen, and it gets acknowledged and talked about, rumored. And Solomon laughs it off in that one scene, but it doesn't actually happen yet. So again, I would love for a season 3 to happen, just so we could see more of that. That being said, from what I understand about the novel, we've already caught up to the present day or 80s day story in the book. So a lot of this is new material, such as Anna Sawai's character Naomi is a complete show creation. Very thankful to see Anna Sawai back on our screens. Of course, this is our first time seeing her since she won an Emmy for Shogun, and incredibly deservedly so. That was incredible stuff from her. The show of the year. That being said, she doesn't get a ton to do in Pachinko Season 2. Very much a supporting role, just like in Season 1. However, I do think she gets a few key moments. I loved it in one of the middle episodes where Naomi meets old Sunja, Youn Yuh-jung and Anna Sawai sharing the screen together. Great stuff. Jin Ha, I like him on the show. He's not really to their level, though, and you can kind of see in a scene like that. Um, Random note, I loved the young boy playing young Mazazu in the past scenes. I thought he was just hilarious. Like, the line deliveries were so good, really fun. That being said, this season is all about the older son of Sunja, Noah, of course, the secret son from Hansu as well. And, I think early on I was like, is Noah being colored in enough? Like, is this just kind of thin lines sketched in? Is he becoming a fully formed character? Then by the time the season progressed, I actually think that definitely happened. I think the Noah arc on the season, which is one of the key things a book reader had been paying attention to and waiting for it to happen as they watched the show. The Noah arc, I think, works really well, and the events that happen in the finale of season 2, something expected by book readers, I think those land really well. The reveal about Noah's parentage and how he's overcome by that and what he does in response, I think that really lands. It is a bit of a change from the books, though, and it's left intentionally, clearly open ended for potential season 3, which I actually kind of like because it is open ended, and I think the 1980s storyline has always given it away that there's not going to be a major change in that resolution. We notably spend time with older Mazazu, Solomon's dad. We don't spend any time with older Noah. So like you always had this existential feeling of dread that something bad happens to Noah. I had that as someone who didn't know it was coming, having not read the book. But I do like that we now have this opportunity that Noah has assumed a new Japanese identity in Nagano, working at a pachinko parlor, much like young Zazu, getting his early start. I kind of like that symmetry, and I just would love to spend more time with adult Noah and try and get in the head of why he made the decision that he did, versus it having more finality the way it does in the book. So I think all that really worked well. I think another key element in particular season two is the kind of acted on, but still very warm tension, sexual, romantic, all of that between Mr. Kim, Hansu's basically right hand man that he sends and has monitor the family, and of course Kyungi, Sunja's was it sister in law? Is it? I forgot the family relationship a little bit. Noah's aunt, right? Something like that. Um, they're dynamic and like on screen, and Kim's clearly uh, passionate like love and desire for Kyungi, and how that's not totally acted on, but not totally shied away from. Like I loved all that. Of course, this season also gives us episode 5 of season 2, which is where we spend time with Kyungi's husband, who had been drafted into a factory in Nagasaki, Japan. And we spend this time starting 1 week prior to the bomb dropping. Black and white, square aspect ratio. Of course, despite helping the Japanese war machine, still experiencing tons of prejudice as a Korean in Japan. And then he ends up surviving basically to pure chance, and then how that changes his character in the years prior with the time skip and whatnot. I thought that episode was absolutely outstanding, and what was pretty impressive about it was that only half of it regards the bomb. Like him, being saved and then returned to the family is the other half of that episode. It was, I think, incredibly powerful, and basically it's the Pachinko season 2 equivalent of season 1. Was episode 8, 9, whatever it was, the big flashback Great Kanto earthquake episode with young Hansu. That episode is one of the best episodes I've ever seen of a TV show, period. I don't think this Nagasaki bombing episode is quite to that level, but it's of a similar vein and certainly was really effective. And again, like I'm clearly dwelling on a lot of stuff that happens in the past timeline just because I think there's just more threads, there's more drama there. As much as I love Anna Sawai's Naomi, it's pretty straightforward how Solomon sees her as a colleague, they become romantically involved, and then they become at odds, and he betrays her with the help of returning Jimmy Simpson. All good drama. I liked it, but I just wish there was kind of more meat to the 80s stuff. And the other side of it is, of course, older Sunja having this burgeoning, perhaps romance, perhaps platonic friendship somewhere in between with this fellow older alone man. And I actually thought that's material was excellent. I love this dynamic between those two. Great acting. And then the reveal kind of about his past, him being a Japanese soldier that was involved in one of the war crimes, massacres of the war, and Mizazu basically exposing that via Private Eye. That angle to it didn't land quite as strongly as I would have liked, just because I was like, I don't know, like maybe I just wanted them to be together and it to be cleaner. I'm not sure. I didn't quite have as much investment in that angle to it. Of course, shout out the opening credits for this season. Everyone dancing in the pachinko parlor. Fantastic stuff. I think the pachinko motif and how it's more revealed upon with Mazazu's early days and how he's clearly not the exceptional student that Noah is. I love all that. And then the fact that Noah ends up at a pachinko parlor as well for very different reasons is really quite compelling. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really impressive show because it has so much on its plate and almost all of it really works well. The production design is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, are we on a few like familiar sets such as the Osaka market and the house and the farm for a while? Yes, for sure. But the series is just so sumptuous and like expertly filmed and blocked and lit and everything that it's just a great time. Of course, I didn't even really mention, but Lee Min Ho, tremendous still as Kohansu. I just think his presence as a clearly like villainous leaning, shady figure, obviously Yakuza, black market, building his wealth, all that, but someone who has good intentions regarding his family and whatnot. Great presence. I really like everything about that performance. I also really love his dynamic with Minha Kim's younger Sunja. Of course, she's like kind of the anchor of the show, and she's tremendous as this character that kind of has to carry a lot and grow up fast, as we saw in the first season. I would say Pachinko season 2 to me is not quite at the level of season 1. Season 1 like really knocked my socks off, but I also think the narrative, which is a bit tighter, a bit more focused in season 2, unsurprisingly, because it has to kind of invent some more storylines going beyond the book in certain respects. It makes sense that this season isn't quite to that level. So I don't have this in my top 3 this year, but I do have it in my top 5 right now. Big difference, right? Still great. Would love for Apple to make a season 3 of this. I mean, they got the money, we know that, so let's hope that they want to invest in the show and the show is popular enough that they will do it. Speaking of Honest So Why, they did renew Monarch Legacy of Monsters for season 2. That show's filming right now. That was a show that I didn't even realize was quite as big as it was by liking it myself. So I'm really hopeful that they will be happy to make another season of Pachinko because of the critical adulation, and maybe Apple will be more serious about pushing the show for awards after seeing how Shogun cleaned up for FX at the Emmys this year. That's a bit cynical of a way to say, hey, look at this Asian show made by Asian people. Look at how successful that was at the American Western Emmy Awards. We can do that with our Asian show too. Like, I don't want to make it that of a blunt comparison. That's probably some of the calculus that's happening at Apple, unfortunately. However, if that's what it takes to get the show in front of more people and get some awards attention that's so justly earned, I'll take it. So spread the good word on Pachinko. We'll root for season 3. Let me know, though, what was your favorite moment in season 2? What do you want to most see next? If we do get a season 3, let me know. And for more TV reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time.